And welcome to the Art of Pricing. This is our 10th episode. How exciting is that? I can't believe that it's been 10 weeks. It's felt like 1 week that I've been doing this. Today, we are going to talk about BookDirect, the BookDirect movement, and what that means for your revenue, and different aspects of that. Today, we have Matt Durrette, who is with Cozi Vacation Rentals in my backyard in Texas Hill Country. Not really in my backyard, but we're like 30 minutes away from each other, so might as well will be. Then we have Arthur with Stayfi, who is now back in New York after spending a lot of pandemic time in Hawaii. And then we have Andrew from Rented, who is hanging out with us from his lovely rented office in Bermuda. Thanks, guys, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks.
We are excited about, every conversation that happens here at Rented, and BookDirect has been something that we've really talked about for quite some time. Like, can we think about, before we get on to like the first subject, the first thing I want to dive into, like when, Andrew, when do you remember the BookDirect, like hashtag BookDirect movement, like coming, into play?
It was pretty close after I got into the industry. I got into the industry in 2012, and I would say at least by 2014, maybe some of the conferences with Heather and Matt Landau.
Yeah, that makes sense, because I got into the industry around 2012 too, and I'm trying to think of it in my head. But my first couple of years in the industry, I only focused on owners, so I really didn't remember that area of it. And when did you join the industry?
So I got into the industry as well around 2012, but I didn't really start getting into the kind of BookDirect mindset until about 2016.
Mm-hmm. Which, honestly, which we're going to dig into, I'm totally jumping full forward, right? Like the getting into it, establishing your business, and then establishing your BookDirect strategy. Sometimes that might be the smarter way to go. So let's go ahead and, dive into some of the things that we talked about yesterday. So what we really want to talk about today is 3 different areas, and we hope we can get to all these areas, right? So we're going to start off on talking about defining what BookDirect means. Why does BookDirect matter, right? Like, I mean, I think most people feel like you understand why it matters, but I had so many light bulb moments yesterday when we were all talking. I feel like we all did. And then how do you do it? How do you do BookDirect? Matt has a great case study, and Arthur works with a lot of people, managers in the BookDirect movement, and what it means to us at Rented that we want to share with you guys. So let's get started on Arthur. What does define BookDirect on your perspective?
Yeah, so for us at Stayfi, we really look at BookDirect from whenever a guest books with a manager or an owner directly with them, and the transaction actually takes place on their website or over the phone. So any booking not basically coming from an OTA. So that could encompass organic search, paid digital advertising like Facebook, or email marketing. Mm-hmm. Any of those types of channels that are pushing guests to book with you directly, that's how we look at BookDirect.
Right. And that's really like, if we're going to sum that up, like anywhere outside of a major OTA, right? Because that means that, like you said, the transaction is coming to you. Matt, what does BookDirect look for you in your head?
Yeah, in the conversation yesterday, I really agree with the author, really having that financial transaction come with us at Cozi Vacation Rentals over the phone, over the website. Being able to align it to any of our own direct marketing campaigns, any of our own direct push to get the direct bookings coming to us, any past even customers coming from the OTA, and then truly converting them into our own customer for life. But really coming down to that financial transaction coming to Cozi Vacation Rentals.
Totally. And I think it was you, Andrew, and Matt, you did a great pivot over to Andrew on this. And I think you said there was 3 pillars of BookDirect yesterday, and one of it was BookRedirect, right?
Yeah, because the reality is, there's the transaction itself and it happening on your site, but where those guests are coming from. And it's virtually impossible for that guest to go directly to your site, as in type in your site, or if you had an app, go directly to your specific app, unless they've been there before. Maybe a friend told them and they wrote it down, or emailed them and they clicked the link. But even that's kind of coming through someone else, which is a referral. So true directly coming to you is typically just going to be redirect. And so this Arthur's definition is the right one, right? And it's how a lot of people mean, but I think there's a piece missing on why BookDirect got so much traction, why people care so much. And it's really about anti-OTA. It's
Mhm.
anti-third-party channel and those fees, and them controlling kind of the guest communications. And that being the case, kind of digging into why people are anti-OTA, why they're concerned about them, why they wouldn't want to build their business entirely dependent on someone else. The same could and likely is true when you talk about a Facebook or a Google
Mhm.
or all these other channels. So if you're upset about $100 billion Airbnb or $17-20 billion Expedia, then what about kind of $1 trillion Googles and Facebooks and what you actually mean to them? So back to the OTAs aren't your friend, but neither Facebook or Google. They're not your
Right.
enemy. They're just building their own business.
Right. And I think that this is a really great point to bring up, right? Like I came from the OTA side of things. So initially, right, whenever you hear BookDirect, especially whenever you come from an OTA and you're trained through an OTA about vacation rentals, you automatically assume that BookDirect means they, people are just trying to take things off platform, right? And the reason that they want to book direct is because they don't want to do OTA fees. That's like the for some reason the thought that or the main reason that people hear in their heads. And I'm not going to say that's not why BookDirect started, right? But it's so much more than that. And I want to challenge people to think whenever you're thinking of BookDirect, don't think of the reason why it may have started, right? If it started because you're trying to get fees back, right? Think of the advantages of BookDirect. And how is that supposed to help you? Not only is it, less fees or anything, but it's a real big, huge part of brand building. And I think that's a good point for us to kind of move on to like, why does BookDirect matter? In there, I think that, what BookDirect matters, looks like with brand building and, retention of guests, but you're always going to have some guests that still the acquisition guests go to the OTAs, right? So what is like, how do you define why does BookDirect matter to you, Matt, as a company in terms of your goals?
Well, I think a lot of what Andrew said is kind of correlated to our brand, and then the stage that we're at is such a very new brand, and building out our brand presence is any customer who does book with us, even on an OTA right now, whether they've come from Facebook, Google, or paid marketing campaigns, I see all that as opportunity, because it's opportunity for me to showcase our brand and as a local expert provider. And that brand presence is so important because wherever they're coming from right now in the customer journey, our goal is to retain them as a direct booking customer for life, educate them on who Cozi Vacation Rentals is. We have the product, we have the inventory, and we control your experience ultimately. And it's to really give them a great experience, make them resonate with our brand. So where, hey, next time they do think of drive to travel, tourism in Texas, they think of Cozi. They continue to come direct to us. And it's our job to fulfill that experience. And that's what is so important from the brand present, is to really retain that customer for life and have them go to, CoziVacationRentals.com.
Right. And you want people to think, like whenever they go to Fredericksburg or the Texas Hill Country, they're not saying, hey, I'm going to stay in an Airbnb. I'm going to say, I stay in a Cozi when I'm in that area. Arthur, this wasn't a question that we asked you yesterday, so not to put you on the spot on anything, but I think it's a good place to ask. What are some of like the biggest concerns or pain points that you hear from managers when they come to you and they're like, hey, I need to work on BookDirect, or, like where are they at in the gameplay with BookDirect?
Yeah, I'd say most know it's something that they should be doing or want to focus on more, but they just don't really have the resources or toolkit to proceed with a pretty comprehensive BookDirect strategy. So for us, our number one goal, like what Matt just said, is we want to make sure guests may come saying they booked an Airbnb, but we want the guests to leave saying that they booked a Cozi. And so that's where we come in with Wi-Fi splash pages and collecting data. But really the guest data is kind of the cornerstone that we see for the BookDirect strategy. Because once you capture guest data from everyone in the home, then you start having a real customer database that you can reach, whether on email, text messaging, directed, highly targeted social media advertising. So that kind of starts building your independent guest directory. And then all those follow-on questions on kind of like, how do I email market? What's the best way to do that? So then there's more tactical questions, but really kind of the guest data is the cornerstone that we try to help our manager customers start with to build out that direct strategy.
Totally. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, it matters because of data.
Yeah.
Right. And so data and retention, Andrew, I wanted to ask you, I mean, you talk to like so many managers all the time, like, why do you, like, what light bulb do you think that a manager may have in their head knowing like, hey, like maybe we need to start focusing on booking direct?
Well, if anything, I think people may over focus at times, right? I think a lot of people focus
Great point.
it's the battle cry, right? Like I got the flag, book direct. And I think what we're hearing from Matt, what we're hearing from Arthur is when book direct is better matters as well, right? So as you're trying to build that strategy, if you're going out and trying to do AdWords and trying to do Facebook campaigns, and what you're ending up having to spend to acquire each booking is more than you would have paid in the OTA, that may not have been a good decision. Now, if you're able to actually create a brand so that X% of those come back year after year and they're coming direct to your site because they didn't come through Airbnb, then maybe you just have a longer term payout. Like it didn't pay off on that one booking, but by year 2 or 3, it pays out in multiples.
And that's sorry, go on.
So I think this is a point where it's not just the guest data, right? Like that's how you go to it, but it's all the data that you're tracking to see what are your efficient channels, when are they more efficient, when are they not? Because the goal should be to maximize profitable revenue.
Right.
Not some kind of what % is from this channel versus that. It's what's the best channel for which booking.
Right. And I think that's a really great point to bring up because, even in the last conference I was at, they were talking a lot about BookDirect and how, Vrbo and Airbnb obviously are still bringing on higher percentage of bookings that are coming in over most people's BookDirect sites. And understanding this data, not only on a market level, but on your own level, right? If BookDirect is your goal, you need to understand why is it your goal, right? Don't just say that you want a BookDirect strategy because you think it would be better, because at the end of the day, if 80% of your revenue is actually coming from an OTA versus your BookDirect site, but you're spending 80% of your efforts trying to build up BookDirect, is that the wisest time that you should be working on, right?
Well, there's one time where it's really efficient to build BookDirect, right? And that's on the BookRedirect because they are physically living in your homes.
Yes.
Once they come. And so if they came in, back to Arthur's point, they came in booking an Airbnb, they leave having stayed in a Cozi, shame on you if they don't have that, right? The fact that something that was a couple minute transaction. That was a couple minute transaction. But then they go spend days, nights, weeks potentially in your home. That's where you have such an advantage over any third-party site, and you really have to build the brand with them then, so they only would ever think and want to come directly to you going forward.
Right. Your business, and we said this yesterday, your business is truly, it's an experience, right? And there's an experience and a memory that you're creating for the people that are coming into your house. And we could, not to belabor this point, we're saying like the book redirect should really be kind of part of the campaign, right? Because you even hear many people on the C team of the OTA saying like, if people are not redirecting and coming to your brand after they stay in your house, it's not our fault on there, right? Like we're going to bring you the new guests, right? Who may have never found you before. But if they stayed and they left your place and they're like, they either love it or they're like, oh, I'm just going to go back to HomeAway instead of going look at Cozi again. There's some things you need to look in there. Matt, I feel like, we've talked about the BookDirect, the why does it matter? And we're halfway through because these lunch and learn conversations go by so fast. I want to, give an opportunity for you to talk about your lives, the live case study that we're talking about. Like, how'd you come up with the Cozi brand? Like, just give us like a full circle, little bullet points of, how this has worked for you.
Yeah. And Arthur, really, it was kind of a light bulb moment for me yesterday when he brought up kind of some of the lease arbitrage models and how they just built brands. But what's the point of building a brand if you're just still going to be on the OTAs and focus on the OTAs? I feel where we are in our stage is we have to invest into the redirect and that retention of the customer over time. But from starting from the very beginning, I made the same mistake. And we had started on the East Coast as I built a brand just to build a brand, but I was still operating a pure Airbnb model. Moving into, and I think it's also important to highlight is your brand really evolves over time.
And what do you,
And
can you like explain to us what was the pure Airbnb model?
so pure Airbnb model is, we were called, when I started in Baltimore, Maryland doing this, we were called Baltimore B&Bs. We only focused all of our time on Airbnb, growing all of our Airbnb business. We got all of our clients from the Airbnb co-hosting program. We were literally, our business model was dependent on that platform, every facet of our business from end to end. And it worked right then. But we started to notice, we went from about 600 listings in Baltimore to 3,000 overnight, and our occupancy started to extremely suffer. Having Airbnb actually shut down your business for a month because a guest can tell you that, oh, I think there's a camera inside. Things like that really opened light bulbs to me where, holy cow, my business is on someone else's, thread. And that was really, really eye-opening, to me, where we had to change.
Yeah.
Big time.
That was a good example. Was it Andrew yesterday? Did you have was it the Amazon example?
Well, yeah, the commoditization versus having a brand, building Cozi, right? So if you're just an Amazon reseller of some other product that has no brand, you sell hammers and you sell brooms, then anybody can come in and undercut you. They can find a cheaper supplier. They can find a way to do it. And Amazon can change the rules on you overnight and your whole business disappears. And that's the same if you're just renting units on Airbnb. That's not really a business. You're basically working for Airbnb at that stage. That's not a business.
That's the transactional sales.
Yeah. Whereas if you build a brand, Airbnb can be a tool, just like Facebook can be a tool. All these other things are tools that you have, arrows in your quiver to go build out your business, but you have your business.
Right.
And that's where you get that long-term sustainability, profitability, a real business.
I know, Matt, yesterday, whenever we were talking about, where y'all came, how you started talking about, the BookDirect strategy with your team and everything, there was one thing you talked about saying like having a simple and clean modern footprint. Can you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, we noticed, starting out from the beginning and over time, we've noticed people loved upscale, luxurious, clean, modern, innovative companies. And what I also noticed was people did love the technology, the ease of access into rentals. But what I also noticed was they wanted to talk to you. I mean, Airbnb in 2008 was renting out bedrooms, local hosts, local connections, and that it was really based upon experiences. And really driving that whole entire experience, we noticed was really, really important. And seeing seeing competitors try to cut out the customer from end to end throughout the whole process and never connect with them was really eye-opening, where they want to get customers in, get them out as fast as possible, automate everything. And to me, you're losing every opportunity at that point of ever building a brand. So we want to do a more tech and touch model from the foundational, where we want to use technology in our rentals to actually drive human interaction. And we have so many different systems and processes from authors, Stayfi, devices, being able to actually correlate those to future direct bookings of people who never even booked before, but they connected to our internet, our property is amazing to see. And all those different technology we utilize to actually have that book direct and that experience has been, important throughout the customer journey. But it's also being able to connect with that customer pre-booking, during booking, and then post-booking. And when that customer checks out of your property, that doesn't, the relationship with that customer should never end just because they checked out of your property is also really, really important. And to use the data that you have to get that customer to come back to Cozi.
Right. And I love the second touch idea, right? I think that's a very popular thing that we are seeing in our new world, but even in the vacational technology, right? Like, I mean, there is this, what sets us a little bit apart from hotels or whatever is like, yeah, we want the tech and we want the automation and we want to give everyone the same experience of ease and use, but they want to feel comfortable. And we can offer that comfortability with the touch model out there. And I think there's a lot of different ways we do that in our industry, whether it comes to that are on top of technology. Arthur, I want to talk about, want to ask you a question, like how does and I don't always do this, I'm like basically doing a shameless plug for you, but Stayfi, I want, your business was literally built for this exact reason. So tell us, a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I come from the digital marketing world, and I actually entered the vacation rental space by doing branding and digital marketing for short-term rental managers. And that's how we came up with Stayfi, because of the persistent issue around collecting guest data, not just the booker, but everybody in the party, because everybody that comes to the home is definitely a potential future customer that you want to capture into your own email database. So we accomplished that through Wi-Fi splash pages, just like what you've used at an airport or hotel, where everybody has to log into the Wi-Fi in order to access the internet. And one of the most kind of like successful marketing tactics that we help our customers employ is email marketing automation. So like Matt mentioned, you want to combine automation and technology with human touch. And something that we definitely encourage everyone to do is, set up a series of automated emails that get sent to every single guest during and after the stay, because that's a way that you can kind of kick off that conversation and make sure that people leave with like a lasting brand impression and understand how BookDirect works and what their advantage of doing that in the future directly with the brand would be.
I'm so fascinated by this in multiple ways, right? As someone who comes from the vacation rental industry, and as long as I have been, of course, when we go on vacation, my friends think that I know everything and I have to book the vacation rental. Not only that, I get constant texts and messages that somebody wants to go to Destin, Florida, if I know a property for them. I'm not really quite sure if people know what I do these days. But anyway, with that said, if I book a vacation rental for 5 to 10 of my friends and they want information on things in the house or the company we book through, I then have to answer a ton of questions later. Right? Like the brand awareness for a brand I booked the property through. I'm just thinking for my sake, if you were able to redirect to everyone or communicate with everyone that was in my stay with me so I didn't have to, how great would that be? And then vice versa, right? Because I'm the one who, I don't say burdened, but the one who gives all the information to my friends. Like there are times where I go and somebody else books and I don't want to ask them about the property. After I'm like, I'll go and like, I will sit there and like play around on like the Airbnb and Vrbo to try and find the property on my own, to just check the rates or check the listing or, do all those things. So, it's, making sure that the goals of your campaign and what you're trying to do, but also, catering to your guests in those campaigns, and how can you make them feel like, oh man, they really are listening to me and they really want me to come back.
That last piece, the catering, I mean, getting back to what Matt was saying on, you can kind of build the relationship. You have all that contact information. But the other piece is, and Arthur's going to know way more on this than I am, but
you just froze just a little.
And I think I may have frozen up again, but understanding who those customers are. And Matt, I think that's where, off the top of your head, you were just like, well, X% come from within this radius, and then Y% come from here, and here's the age range. And that's the insight, right? Because that helps inform what your brand you build to, right? The brand isn't what necessarily you want it to be. It's what your customers see and perceive. And so to me, I thought that was a really interesting thing. I don't know if you'd be okay sharing.
It was, and honestly, the last part, I was like, let's talk about data and resources that you have and knowing your customer, Matt. So let's, take it off.
Yeah, it was amazing to see originally on the East Coast, from being in the urban city center. Our customers came from over 100 different countries, all 50 states. Age ranges from 16 to 87. My brain was like, how do we even begin to like target these customers? Only the people that stay with us. And most of the time, they never came back to Baltimore. It was a one and done trip, and it was over. Well, here in the Texas Hill Country and throughout the Texas Drive Tourism market, it's a whole different model. 87% of our customers are coming from Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, anywhere in between. They're driving 4 hours or less. And then also 13% are coming from OTAs out of state. Very rarely are they booking directly through us out of state. So we're just targeting where we know the customer's coming from here in Texas. Our average customer is 42 years old. And it's a 42-year-old female. And we're able to own in our marketing and really target our customer base. And on top of it, it's also the retention. Our average homeowner and client is 55 plus. And so also from that owner retention strategy is targeting the owners that we know of that are actually investing, into these high demographic income areas and high value properties. But what we've noticed is just because a customer is coming to Fredericksburg, Texas, where our headquarters and office is, they're also going to New Braunfels, to number one water park. They're also going to Lake Travis. They're going to Horseshoe Bay. They're going to Galveston, Port Aransas, South Padre. they're hopping in a vehicle and traveling to all these different Texas demographics. And that's where, our ultimate position is to be in all these drive-to hospitality tourism markets, and where we're a 70% direct booking company where, hey, if that customer went to Galveston, great, they booked with us, and they're going to Fredericksburg to drink wine next weekend, and they're also going to book with us because they had the same experience in all these different models in different towns.
Right. And it's so important to know that. I'm sorry, Andrew, what were you going to say?
This is kind of a guess, but I mean, there's been a lot since Airbnb IPO not talking about the professional and not seeming to care, and it's all about the individual host. And I mean, I think this could be a big thing, right? The individual hosts are never going to be at the scale to build a brand. They don't have any desire, like you were talking about with Baltimore Airbnb. You can't build a brand when your guests are coming from 100 different countries and all this, and it's only one state at a time. The brand is not worth anything. Whereas if you're trying to sign long-term owners and you have long-term lifetime guests that are repeat bookers and it's a totally different ballgame.
Right. And there's no right or wrong way, right? Like if the Airbnb model that's the model that works for you and that's supporting you, then go for it. But if the model is more of a BookDirect brand building, larger business model, then that's for you as well. It's defining your goals, right? Defining your goals and finding the resources and the data that are going to support your goals in there. And we did have a talk yesterday about the vanity metrics versus KPIs. So be cautious of these metrics that that are being thrown out from you, and making sure that they are actual, true, measurable key performance indicators for your business. Is there anything I'm missing on that part?
Well, just that distinction, right? What drives the performance of your business? So the ultimate performance is profitability growth. Then what is feeding that profitability versus numbers that you can put up? And the example we had yesterday is, you can get 100% direct booking if your mom goes and books once you start a company, but that's the only booking you get because you never listed on the OTA. That's not building a business.
Right.
And so really thinking what the performance is and what matters there.
Yeah. And then Arthur, you had a great question yesterday that, like, to everybody on this call, it was a price parity versus billboarding. Do you remember that full question?
Oh, just what Rented's thoughts on those topics?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's more in your wheelhouse. Yeah.
Yeah. So the price parity, whenever it comes to price parity, when it comes from your website versus, say, the OTA is on there, it's always, you hear that your website is going to be a little bit lower than an OTA because then you don't have the service fee on there. But there's some making sure that you're not undercutting, right, anyone on either side of things. So we did hear recently that, some people, their cancellation policy on the OTAs is like very lenient. So that it's going to help them in the search algorithm. But whenever somebody goes to the BookDirect website, the cancellation policy or the pet policy or any kind of policy that's in there is it's not as lenient, right? So be careful that you're not boxing yourself out by just trying to play by the OTA rules and make yourself better by the same time as, building a BookDirect campaign in there. Another thing that I know that we also talked about, and I've seen this many times, is, being from the vacation rental world, anytime I try to go book a property, if I see a company's name, I do go and look for their website and I compare prices. And I know not everybody's doing that, but I do that. Vacation
I do that too.
Right. I think a lot of people do this. And there are times where I have found the website's price is higher than an OTA price. So I would definitely, make sure that, there's some quality assurance and some strategic reasons as to why you're doing these things. And even if you are, let's say, advertising separately in different areas, that you're not hurting yourself by doing so.
Well, the other way you can hurt yourself that I think you have to be a little conscious of with some of that billboarding and the redirect to your own site is, depending how the search algorithms are calculating on those sites, if you have a bunch of click-throughs that aren't converting, you're going to keep pushing down the rankings. So you have to think the long-term cost. Yeah, I save 15% on that booking, or I save X dollars on that booking, but what is the long-term cost on your business? So again, maybe trying to cut out them on that booking is not the efficient way. It's really owning that guest post-booking. Make sure you're getting their contact information. Make sure you're delivering the surprise and delight experience.
Yeah, so we are at 11:31. I'll give 1 minute. Do we have any final words of wisdom, advice that anyone would like to give?
Well, I think on the BookDirect side, it's really, I think, us as a local expert product management company, you know, we to me, we have the power kind of long term to really dictate that customer's experience. You know, you can call someone, speak to someone at Cozi who has been to the exact property that you're renting and can actually talk about it. And you can find our number. You know, there's some of the big players online. You can't find a single phone number. If somehow you do find that phone number, that person's gonna have no idea about what there is to do, what the house actually has. And I think that's gonna be the difference long term. And then customers are also getting smart into finding the best price, just like you are. Is getting out of people in the vacation rental industry who've been there, who are doing what we do, but people are already starting to do that who have no connection to the vacation rental industry, you know, work-wise.
Right. Totally. I think that, you know, people are vacationing more than they have before, whether it's vacationing or flexcationing, and they're just getting smarter in the States, right? So remember that. Well, thank you, Andrew or Arthur, did y'all have anything?
I just would say, if you want to kind of assess your redirect booking opportunity, just take a look at your OTA bookings and see, do you see the same individuals rebooking with you multiple times? Because then you know already you have a great start and you're delivering a great experience because they're coming back again and again. And those are the obviously priority people that you would want to convert through whatever means to start booking with you directly.
That is great advice, and an easy place to have somebody start with it.
And I would just say BookDirect should be a tool that you use when it makes sense. It shouldn't be the end all be all. I mean, it can be very powerful. It should be definitely a part of any business you're building, but only a part.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining today and talking about the BookDirect topic. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can get you in touch with Andrew, Arthur, or Matt as well, and I'm sure they would love to talk to you. Everyone have a great Wednesday.
Thank you,
everyone.
Bye.